Joe Cornely grew up in Hardin County, Ohio. Although his parents left farming before he was born, Joe has been part of agriculture his whole life, starting with his grandfather's farm and summer jobs on local farms, and then throughout his professional career. Joe graduated from Kenton Senior High School in 1974. He attended Bowling Green State University and graduated in 1978 with a bachelor's degree in speech and communications education. Throughout both high school and college, he worked part-time at his hometown radio station as a DJ and a news and sports anchor. After graduating from college, Joe took a full-time job at his local station, but within 2 months, he was hired as a farm broadcaster by WRFD. 9 months later, he was hired away by WLW, and 3 years later, he returned to WRFD, where he stayed for 16 years.
While at WRFD, Joe developed the station's 90-minute midday farm program with listeners in 70 counties. It was regularly rated as the most highly listened to farm program in the state of Ohio. He attended countless meetings, field days, and other events around the state, developing a strong relationship with his listeners. They appreciated his coverage of ag events and his market and weather reports. Joe began the weekly Conservation Ohio program, which became the nation's longest continually aired conservation show. Off the air, Joe managed the sales and business operations of the farm department and led it to record revenue and profits. Joe also traveled internationally covering agricultural events. He was chosen by Secretary of Agriculture John Block to accompany the U.S. delegation to the European Union Economic Summit and traveled with the American Soybean Association on a 5-nation European trade mission. Joe's work was recognized by several groups, including awards from the Soil and Water Conservation Society, American Soybean Association, National Association of Conservation Districts, and the National Corn Growers Association. He also received awards from a dozen Ohio farm groups and was honored by the Kentucky Farm Bureau. In 2017, Joe was inducted into the Hardin County Agricultural Hall of Fame, and in 2020 was inducted into the Ohio Agricultural Hall of Fame.
Throughout his career, Joe was a popular speaker and MC and served on numerous committees and panels for several state farm groups. Throughout the years, Joe was very active in NAFB. He served on or chaired several committees and was NAFB president in 1995. Much of his work focused on professional development for fellow farm broadcasters, competitive balance within the industry, and membership standards. Joe developed the organization's code of ethics, and as president, guided an effort to make the organization more inclusive. This comprehensive effort resulted in an unprecedented, unanimous vote of approval by the membership for a new organizational structure. And in 1996, Joe was chosen National Farm Broadcaster of the Year. In 1998, Joe joined Ohio Farm Bureau as Director of Media Relations. He developed communication strategies and messaging for the state's largest farm organization, managed media relations, contributed to the organization's publications, and assisted with executive communications. Joe even put his radio background to good use by hosting Ohio Farm Bureau's weekly public affairs radio show called Town Hall, Ohio.
Before retiring earlier this year, Joe conceived and launched the group's membership publication, Our Ohio, led the entry of Farm Bureau into social media, and wrote the organization's social media policy. Joe was heavily involved in helping Ohio Farm Bureau navigate significant public policy and public perception challenges, including the conflict with the Humane Society of the U.S., the Toledo water crisis, and ongoing water quality issues. The American Farm Bureau honored him more than a dozen times for creating the nation's top state Farm Bureau communications tools. Joe retired as Senior Director of Corporate Communications. Throughout his career, Joe always looked for ways to help develop younger agricultural communicators. While at WRFD, he initiated a broadcast mentorship program, giving students exposure to all facets of the broadcast industry. Always quick to acknowledge opportunities given him when starting out by fellow farm broadcasters Bob Miller and Ron Powers, Joe gave back by helping several young broadcasters get their start as interns or employees.
On and off the air, Joe has given of his time and talents. He's been active in his community, supporting numerous charities, and has always been a big supporter of 4-H and FFA. Joe is also an entrepreneur, owning Farm Media Productions, an ag communications firm. He has produced radio programming for Ohio Farm Bureau and several Ohio commodity groups and the Ohio Veterinary Medical Association. Since the early 1980s, Joe has produced radio news stories from the American Bankers Association's National Ag Bankers Conference, which have been aired on more than 700 radio stations across the country. And he provided similar services for the American Sheep Industry Association and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. Joe and Connie have been married for 41 years. Their son Chuck's family includes fiancée Debbie and his children Alexis, Everett, and Luke, and their daughter Melissa's family includes her husband Jeremiah and their children Kendall and Lily. Grandpa Joe is very proud of them all.
Throughout his career, both in radio and after, Joe Cornely has been a respected voice for American agriculture, a strong supporter and leader of farm broadcasting, and a good friend and mentor to many across the country. His influence and professionalism have left a lasting imprint on our industry, and Joe Cornely now assumes his rightful place in the NAFB Hall of Fame.